Hey guys, Connie here, and today I am excited to share with you how I finally figured out the math to get a full wrap tumbler on the eufyMake. And you might think, hey, Eufy has this auto measure feature right here on its screen. And in theory, and eventually, I do think that will work. And maybe it does for some cups, but I have not had success with it yet. So I wanted to show you the process that I use to figure out the perfect full wrap tumbler using the eufyMake with my own measurements. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on shape. And I'm going to drop a box into here. Then I'm going to shrink this box down because I don't need it to be big to be able to get my measurements, okay? But what I do need is for it to be lighter color because I want to see when or if it overlaps, when it overlaps, how much it overlaps so I can measure that. So using it in a lighter color makes that easier to see. Command C, Command V will bring us a second square and we're going to drop it on the exact opposite side. And then we just want to make sure that they're in line with each other. So you have to make sure your squares are on the exact outside of your template, okay? The next thing that I do is I take some painter's tape and I apply it to my cup up and down all the way, okay? And the most important thing here is that you keep it completely flat to the cup. So if you end up with some ripples or bubbles in there, make sure you take it off and reapply, okay? So that's it. That's all you need to do. And we are going to now measure our cup. When you are measuring your cup, digital calipers are your best friend. But if you don't have digital calipers, a measuring tape will work just fine. And we need to figure out the diameter of our cup. So if you're using your measuring tape, you're going to wrap it around, figure out how many millimeters it is around, and divide that by pi. Let's go back to our elementary division days. You're going to divide that by 3.14, okay? If you are using your calipers and it's measuring the half of the cup, then you already have your diameter, okay? Let's head over and get our measurements for our cup. Okay, we have our cup. We have our digital calipers. We just want to make sure when they're closed that it sits exactly at 0. Open them up and measure our cup. We want to make sure that our caliper is completely level as well so that we get our exact measurements. Okay. 75.15 is our measurement. So I'm going to go into the eufyMake software and enter that number. Okay, so we have our measurements. We said it was 75.17 millimeters. So I'm going to make sure that both of my top diameter and bottom diameter are 75.17. And then my template got smaller, so I need to make sure that I move my shapes. So again, they are sitting at the very edge of the template, okay? And now we're just going to send this to the printer. But when we place our cup in the printer, we want this tape to be facing down in the machine, okay? And a lot of times in the forums, I'll see people asking, how do you know where the tumbler is going to print? So where you want it to print, the middle of the cup will be sitting at the top. So if your art is in the middle of your template, then it will be at the top. If your art is on the either side of the template, it will be printing at the bottom. So for this test, we want our tape at the very bottom of our cup. Let's go install it and I'll show you how. Okay, so here we are at the machine and I want to just pop in and show you that there is a little knob here between the two wheels. Your cup needs to sit against the two wheels and make sure that it's sitting flat on the wheels. So with the tape part down, I'm going to pop that in there, make sure it's sitting just right between, and then lock it. Okay, and I'm just going to twist it a little bit to make sure that my tape is directly underneath. Now we're ready to hit print, and I wanted to show you what I do in the software to keep my measurements. Okay, so back here in the software, my cup is installed with the tape on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and hit print. When you hit print with the rotary installed, it's going to go through this auto measure process. Go ahead and let that happen. The next screen will tell you that your cup measures different than what the machine is measuring it. Do you still want to go ahead and print? So here's our warning. It says measurement mismatch. The auto-measured dimensions differ significantly from the dimensions I entered. Do you want to continue to print? Yes, I do. Okay. It's going to send it over and it's going to print these two boxes. And in theory, if my measurements are correct, they will line up to each other without doing an overlap or without a gap. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, so truly, I don't even want to tell you how many times I've gone through and recorded this tutorial before it finally even clicked fully for me. And never ever have I had my test print as well as that. I've gone through this so many times, you guys, so don't be afraid to make mistakes because you can come back to this video and this is just a few of the mistakes that I've made. But you can come back here and say, well, it took Connie this long because the math didn't math and apparently I forgot elementary math. Let's say we had a 2 millimeter overlap. We don't on this. I'm going to use my little measuring tape here and I mean, I can tell you without a doubt, we have like 0.5 millimeter, but we're going, for the math purposes, we're going to go ahead and just say we have a 2 millimeter overlap, okay? So if we have 2 millimeters, we need to divide that by 3.14. And that tells us that we need to drop our diameter size 0.6369428. We can round it to 0.64 and that should give us a more accurate diameter. But because mine is literally just, I'm going to say 0.75 divided by 3.14 equals, so I need to take out 2.4 millimeters in my diameter to get my new dimensions. So let's head back to the software. Okay, so back here in the software, my original number was 75.17 and I am taking away 0.24. So my new number will be 74.93 and I want that on both. And I also need to change this number because I've done the math and it is 210 millimeters high. So see how I have to move it over a little bit because it overlaps. So, okay. So now my new numbers, if in theory, if I run this back again, because I did the math, it should now line up without an overlap. So let's throw this back into the machine and see if it works. Okay. You guys probably figured out what I did wrong before I even did, but I subtracted the 0.24 from my number when I should have added it because when I subtracted it, my template came smaller, resulting in a bigger overlap instead of a smaller overlap. So if my original number was 75.17, now it should be 75.41. And tab so it does both. And I'm going to bring that, I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over. No, that's why. It should be 75.41. 75.41. There we go. That makes sense. Okay, so bring it back, line them up, make sure they're parallel. I'm going to drop it down so it doesn't overprint on the other one. And we're going to send this back to the machine. Okay, so we're back and we have a much better print here with just the slightest overlap. So now to fix this, I'm just going to go in and troubleshoot. So I still have an overlap, but it's such a tiny amount. Maybe I can take this to 75.45 and I'm going to reprint until I get my seam exactly right. And this is just a back and forth process. It does take some time, but it's worth it in the end when you get the perfect print and you do not get an overlap and waste your cup. Now, we've talked about now how to get that perfect seam, but how do you measure the height of your cup and where your art starts when you have a rim around the top of your cup? So I'll show you my trick for that too. And I'm going to do the same thing and drop a square in here, make it more of just a really thin line and stretch it up. So I currently have my cup set at 210 millimeters. So I'm going to drop it down here, make that, and I'll make it a bright yellow so it's easy to see on the tape. And what I do is I measure how high the rim is, and I've measured it to be 12 millimeters. So you can click on your art here and it shows that it's down 7.96. So I'm going to move it to 12 millimeters down. And actually, if I'm being honest, I usually like to go like 11.75. So it does go over the rim a tiny bit instead of not reaching the rim at all, because that looks worse. And like I said, with these cups, and I don't know if it applies to all cups, but I can peel off any overlap from the rim while not peeling off here. So let me go ahead and show you how I set this up, and we'll print it and we'll see how our size turns out. I'm gonna drive it over here to the seam again so it's overlapping. And I've adjusted my width of my cup again, or the diameter of my cup, and I want to just make sure everything's set. And I'm going to take the squares only and drop them down a little bit more. Okay, and if you really want to make sure it's on the outside, you can click here and click here, but the lines do generally pop up so that you can make sure that it is done right. Okay, so I'm going to pop this cup back in and send it to the printer again. Okay, so something went amiss again, and you can tell that something didn't measure up because while I made my template just a little bit bigger, somehow or another my squares ended up overlapping more than they did before. So I've gone back and I'm reprinting it without the yellow line. But the best part is for the height of the cup, the yellow line went exactly where I needed it to reach to. So getting the gap at the top of your design, that clearly is the easy part. Now you know how to do that. Let's hope that this next print will bring us closer to that seamless pattern wrap. Okay, so we're back, and I don't want to tell you how long it's been since that last clip. I have done a lot of testing, and I had to change colors because they were all starting to blend together, but I did finally figure it out. Sometimes I would move it too much and it would overlap, and then it would gap because I would overcorrect again, and it was just, that's just how my brain works, or doesn't. So I went ahead and printed a very cute design on a green cup for a back to school teacher kind of tumbler, and it turned out stunning. I'm going to post the photo or the video after this with some photos and all of my testing images and everything else, so you can see that making mistakes is okay. You guys, that's part of the process. But using the tape really does make a big difference because you're not going to waste your material. And this little bit of ink is not going to impact your cost of goods at all. The other thing to remember is you need to do this for each cup. It's different. But now that I have my settings done, I'm going to click over here and I'm going to say creative, skinny, tumblers. Okay, so now I have that saved. So every time that I come back to throw a new skinny tumbler from Say Creative, I should have my measurements already figured out. I will probably still always run a test to make sure that it's the same, because you just never know with manufacturers if there's some variance in their cups. So I'll still do that, but at least I have a great starting point now. As I was saying, Say Creative, that is where I got my cups. You guys, I've been using Say Creative cups for a very long time. I use them in my laser jobs. I use them for my own cups. And now I'm so excited to have them in their skinnies because they work perfectly with the UV printer. So if you've been a part of the laser world for any time, you know that Say Creative cups are great. If you are new to the Eufy world and don't have the laser background, go and check out Say Creative. I will link it down below. Their cups are fantastic. Their shipping is incredibly fast. They have great color options for your cups as well. These ones come with a slide top lid as well as a straw. I can't say enough about how great it is to work with Say Creative. If you have any French background, you'd know that's creative. Anyways, I hope this tutorial helped you guys. I hope that you master full wrap tumblers, but I want you to know that it is okay to make mistakes because that is the best way to learn. And goodness knows I've made mine. All right, stay tuned for the videos and the photos of the finished product and let me know what you think. Bye.